The clothing company American Apparel was underperforming, and they realized that their biggest obstacle to performance was their culture. That their culture had become very hierarchical and highly political and judgmental. So people in the company were scared to share ideas and thoughts and concerns because they were worried about looking bad. And this was inhibiting the company from growing and performing well. So they realized that they had to establish a culture of trust and openness in order to succeed. So as they went about trying to establish that culture, first they decided among the leadership that they were going to stop engaging in all the shaming and blaming that they had been doing to each other. So when things didn't go how they wanted, instead of shaming and blaming each other, they would simply analyze the outcomes objectively and then seek to learn from those outcomes. So they started having weekly meetings among the leadership of the company to engage in that shame and blame free process and the process of learning. And then they also initiated company-wide calls in which they regularly reported the outcomes that they were getting, the learnings from those outcomes, and the application of those learnings. So what they were doing to continue doing things that were working and what they were doing to change and improve. And that was going out to the whole company so that everybody could be informed. And then finally, probably the most important thing that they did was the management team all moved in together into the same big open room with glass walls, so that they could communicate to the rest of the company that they were completely open to unrestricted sharing of ideas. And they asked the rest of the company for everybody, regardless of position, to stop by and share with them what they felt like both the leaders and the company in general could do to improve, what they could start doing, what they could stop doing, and what they could adjust. And as they began really laying out this culture, people were a little hesitant at first because they had been so used to this hierarchical and judgmental culture. But as they really began to see that the culture truly was changing and that they were safe to share ideas openly without being criticized or punished, ideas began to come out, and it created an amazing shift in momentum in the company to where the company eventually reached 12 straight quarters of upward growth. And in 3 years, they added $1 billion in sales to the company. So this was a huge turnaround, and it was all due to psychological safety. Psychological safety. So let's talk about what that is. Psychological safety is the feeling that you are safe to take risks and make honest mistakes, to share genuine ideas and opinions, and show up as your authentic self, all without being punished or humiliated, and instead being valued and respected. And in Google's 5-year study of highly productive teams called Project Aristotle, psychological safety emerged as the most important aspect of high-performing teams. While on the other hand, psychological unsafety brings performance down in huge, significant ways. For example, one day when I was at practice in water polo in high school, our coach lined us up in 2 parallel lines facing each other. So we're in the pool. The pool is 7 feet deep, so you don't touch the bottom. You have to tread water. And we had weight belts around our waists. They weighed, I think, maybe about 10 pounds. And our task was simply to pass the ball back and forth between ourselves and our partner across from us, and not drop the ball for a predetermined amount of time. I think it was a minute. Plus, we had to make sure to keep our chest out of the water the whole time. So we had those weight belts on to make it a harder workout while we did that. So that was the task. And as we began going through that task, round 1, somebody dropped the ball, so we had to stop and start over. Round 2, someone else dropped the ball, so we had to stop and start over. And at this point, even just a couple rounds in, teammates started getting kind of irritated and saying things like, "Come on, guys, just pass the ball, just catch it. We can do this," kind of thing. But not in an encouraging way, in kind of an irritated way. And basically, people kept dropping the ball. And the rounds kept going on and on and on, and we became increasingly exhausted, and teammates began being more and more irritated with each other and with the whole situation. And our coach got more and more irritated. He was saying things like, "Guys, just catch the ball. This is not hard. Do it again." He was getting so irritated. Anyways, by about round 20, we finally got it. But at that point, even though we were relieved to be done, we were also exhausted and humiliated and pretty discouraged. So there's such interesting psychology to me in this experience, because what should have been a pretty simple task, simply passing the ball back and forth without dropping it and keeping our chest out of the water for 1 minute. It's pretty straightforward, not too complicated, and pretty simple, but we really struggled to do it. And I don't think that that is because we didn't have the skills. I believe it's because of the psychological environment that we all created. We created this environment in which we weren't safe to make mistakes because we were getting upset with each other, and because our coach was getting upset with us. We were all getting frustrated, so everybody was scared of dropping the ball because that meant social punishment. It meant people were going to look down on you. So every time somebody dropped the ball, they felt like an idiot. And so everybody was focusing on not making a mistake and how bad that would be to make a mistake. And because of that, we were all making way more mistakes. So ultimately, we created a psychologically unsafe environment, and it greatly inhibited our performance. So let's talk about how to create psychological safety, because this truly is critically important for high-performing teams. Let's begin by talking about the reverse, how to create psychologically unsafe environments. One would be get down on team members, aka socially punish them for honest mistakes. When we socially punish each other for honest mistakes, it makes us scared to make mistakes and scared to report mistakes, so we hide them or we justify them so we can't grow. And when we're always scared of making mistakes, that means that we're not focusing on offense. We're not focusing on successfully executing the task. We're focusing on avoiding mistakes. And that naturally leads the mind to engage in the task less effectively. So that's number one, get down on team members for honest mistakes. Number two is ignore, hide, and justify your own mistakes. When you ignore and hide and justify your mistakes, that communicates to the rest of the team that mistakes are something to be ashamed of and something to hide. So it makes everybody feel unsafe to make mistakes. Tip number three would be talk negatively about team members behind their backs. This one's huge. This creates psychological unsafety whether people find out about the gossip or not. And here's why. Even if somebody that you're talking negatively about never finds out about that, the person that you're talking to and sharing that gossiping negative information that you don't have the right to share, they are going to begin viewing you as someone who is probably going to speak negatively about them to other people. So even if the person you're talking negatively about doesn't find out, you are losing trust with the people that you are talking negatively about others to. And even if it generates this artificial sense of connection while you're engaged in that conversation, it's not true connection. All it does is destroy trust, because you can't trust that this person who's gossiping to you is not going to gossip about you as well. So instead of talking negatively about others to others, instead make sure to speak to people about the problems that you have, about any concerns that you need to address. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But number 4 would be shut down ideas before exploring them. This is a great way to create psychological unsafety, because if people know that an idea that they share might just get shut down without even being explored, they're not going to feel open or safe to share those ideas. Okay, let's talk about the reverse, how to create psychological safety. 4 tips here, and this is not an exhaustive list. This is just 4 tips that will help you get going in that direction, but there's so much more we could eventually talk about too. But tip number 1 is validate and encourage teammates when they make honest mistakes. Validate and encourage. That's how we take the negative energy out of mistakes and actually turn them into a positive thing. Help them become a natural part of our process of growth. Number 2, embrace your own mistakes and seek to learn. When team members see that others are embracing their mistakes and trying to learn from them, that helps them feel safe and even excited to do the same. And that opens it up to where we can share our mistakes with each other without being ashamed. Number 3, talk to people, not about people. So if you have concerns that need to be addressed or problems between you and another person that need to be resolved, don't go gossip about it with other people. Either talk to them directly about it in a humble and respectful way, or if you're really not sure exactly how to handle it with this person, bring it up with leaders who can actually help you resolve the problem. So bring it up with leaders in a productive and humble way. Don't just talk to people about it in a gossiping way. Then finally, number 4 is explore various ideas and perspectives with, here's the key word, curiosity. Curiosity is a key ingredient to psychological safety, because when groups come together with a mindset of curiosity, ideas can flourish. When people are open to new ideas, to ways of seeing things in ways that they haven't seen them before, that is when ideas can flourish and conversation can be open and honest, and the highest and best ideas can come out. But you have to be open to all perspectives. If you're not, people are going to be hesitant to share what they have to offer, and it's going to be hard to figure out the best solutions. It's also critically important that we create psychological safety for ourselves within our own minds. So ask yourself, do I treat myself in a way that creates psychological safety for me? Or do I treat myself in a way that makes me psychologically unsafe? And make sure to create psychological safety for yourself by validating your mistakes and seeking to learn from them. And instead of beating yourself up, just using them as part of the fun process of improvement. And then also speak to yourself kindly and respectfully in the same way that you would speak to a friend or a family member that you love unconditionally. And explore thoughts and ideas that you have without judging yourself for them. Sometimes we come up with a thought or an idea about something and we automatically shut it down for ourselves. We say, no, that's dumb. That's a silly idea. Don't do that to yourself. Explore it. If you have an idea, create an open space within your own mind for that idea, and that'll help you to engage in the creative process. Thank you all so much for listening. I truly appreciate it. Please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and share this podcast on social media so that others can enjoy it and benefit from it as well. Thank you so much. Let's go be high performing today.